On the morning of March 1st, 2026, a container ship in the Persian Gulf checked its navigation display. A maritime navigation screen shows a GPS position readout placing a ship icon visibly on land at what appears to be an airport runway. The ship's navigation display showed an impossible inland position, while the actual vessel was visible through the bridge windows as being at sea. The display showed the ship's position as an airport, not near an airport, at an airport, on the runway. The ship was at sea. That same morning, Windward Maritime AI confirmed that more than 1,100 vessels across the Persian Gulf had their navigation systems interfered with in a single 24-hour period. Ships were falsely positioned at airports, at a nuclear power plant, on dry land inside Iran, at positions miles from their actual locations. No alarm sounded on any of their navigation systems. The GPS receivers displayed positions. The positions were wrong. The systems had no way to know they were wrong, and none of the ships could tell the difference. Today, Where on Earth explains how GPS spoofing has become the most dangerous invisible threat in one of the world's most critical maritime passages. We cover what it is, how it works, why civilian navigation is structurally unable to defend against it, and what the real-world consequences have already been. This is a companion to our 6 Choke Points video, which covers the physical geography of the Strait of Hormuz. This video covers the electronic warfare layer that has been added on top of it. Subscribe to Where on Earth and hit the bell. Now, let us understand exactly how GPS spoofing works and why it is so difficult to detect. A diagram shows satellites transmitting signals to a ship receiver which calculates position from multiple signal timings. The diagram then shows a spoofing transmitter on the ground, generating fake signals that the receiver prioritizes because they are stronger. GPS works by triangulation. Your receiver picks up signals from multiple satellites simultaneously. Each signal contains a precise timestamp. By calculating the tiny time differences between when each satellite signal arrives, your receiver can determine exactly where on Earth it is standing. This is how every ship, aircraft, smartphone, and military vehicle navigates today. GPS jamming is relatively simple. A jamming device broadcasts noise on the same radio frequency as GPS satellites, overwhelming the real signal. That makes the receiver unable to calculate any position at all. The navigator knows something is wrong. GPS spoofing is far more dangerous. A spoofing device does not block the signal. It broadcasts a fake signal. A signal that looks exactly like a real satellite transmission, with a plausible timestamp. At a higher power level than the genuine satellite signals, the receiver, designed to lock onto the strongest available signal, accepts the fake as real. It calculates a position. It displays that position on the navigation chart. The crew sees a plausible reading, not an error message, not a warning, a position. And the position is wrong. Here is the fundamental reason why this vulnerability exists and why it cannot easily be fixed. The civilian GPS signal, the L1CA signal that virtually every commercial vessel, aircraft, and smartphone on Earth relies on, is unencrypted. It carries no authentication. A receiver has no built-in mechanism to verify that a signal it receives is actually coming from a satellite rather than a transmitter on the ground. The Royal Institute of Navigation's January 2026 report, drawing on surveys of more than 100 sector experts and 300 vessel captains, described this directly. The result is not a recognizable outage. It is a silent corruption of position data. The receiver shows a plausible fix. The crew trusts the display. The calculated location is wrong. Now, let us understand why the Strait of Hormuz is where this problem matters most. A satellite map shows the Strait of Hormuz from above, the narrow passage between the Iranian coast to the north and the Omani coast to the south, with the tanker traffic visible as clustered AIS dots moving through the shipping lanes. The Strait of Hormuz is the most important single choke point in the world for global energy supply. Approximately 20% of global petroleum trade passes through these waters every day. 21 million barrels of oil, Every tanker carrying crude from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, and Iraq to the rest of the world passes through here. The strait is approximately 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. The shipping lanes within that width are narrower still. 2 kilometers inbound, 2 kilometers outbound, a 3-kilometer separation zone between them. In a 33-kilometer wide channel shared between a major oil-producing region and a country, Iran, that is frequently in direct conflict with those producers and their Western buyers. There is almost no margin for navigational error. A ship that believes it is 5 kilometers from where it actually is, in these waters, is a ship that may be in collision course with another vessel, or outside the shipping lane, or in Iranian territorial waters. Focal point positioning describes the geography of the problem directly. Here, even modest mistakes in position or timing can rapidly escalate into collisions, groundings, or environmental disasters. Now, let us understand the documented real-world consequences. A maritime incident shows the aftermath of an oil tanker collision in the Persian Gulf with emergency response vessels visible alongside the damaged tanker hull. GPS interference in this region is not a theoretical risk. It has already produced documented incidents. In June 2025, during a 12-day period of intensified conflict, more than 900 ships had their navigation signals jammed in the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf. That same month, the oil tankers Adelan and Front Eagle collided off the coast of the UAE. Electronic navigation interference was cited as a likely contributing factor. In May 2025, the container ship MSC Antonia ran aground in the Red Sea near Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. GPS jamming was cited as a cause. A ship that was in open water navigating with electronic chart systems ran aground because the chart was showing the wrong position. In Q2 2025 alone, more than 10,000 vessels were officially reported as affected by GNSS interference, according to the Royal Institute of Navigation and GPS Patron Analysis. This was an 8-fold increase from the previous quarter, and the consequences are not limited to ships. In December 2024, Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 was shot down after GPS interference in the Black Sea region caused it to be diverted into Russian-controlled airspace. 38 people were killed. The aircraft was not the intended target of the interference. It was collateral damage from electronic warfare that could not be contained geographically. The same year, GPS jamming forced an aircraft carrying European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to make an emergency landing. GPS spoofing has become a routine capability in modern conflict, and civilian navigation is structurally unable to distinguish spoofed signals from real ones. Now, let us understand how far this problem has spread geographically. A world map shows the 5 maritime regions now documented as experiencing GPS jamming and spoofing. The Black Sea, the Baltic Sea, the Eastern Mediterranean, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf are all highlighted simultaneously. The Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz are the most dramatic current example. But the problem is not confined to one geography. GPS Patron's cumulative 2025 analysis documented the spread. In the Black Sea, Russian GPS jamming around Crimea has been documented since 2021. The region is now so systematically disrupted that ships have routinely appeared on maritime tracking systems positioned miles inland. In the Baltic Sea, Finland's Coast Guard has reported persistent satellite navigation disturbances. Authorities suspect military sources attempting to protect ports from drone strikes. In April 2024, a single spoofing event simultaneously placed 117 ships at Beirut Airport on maritime tracking screens. 117 vessels at an airport simultaneously. In the Red Sea, interference linked to the Yemen conflict has disrupted vessels across the Gulf of Aden. In the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz, by mid-March 2026, Orca AI calculated that GPS and AIS interference had disrupted more than 1,650 commercial vessels since the February 28 escalation. 5 regions, all major commercial shipping corridors. The GPS patron analysis reached a conclusion that the maritime industry cannot avoid. GNSS interference is spreading faster than the industry's ability to adapt. Now, let us understand one consequence that almost nobody has reported. A compliance officer reviews documents at a desk showing maritime vessel tracking records, with some vessels appearing to have called at Iranian ports that they did not actually visit. GPS spoofing does not just affect navigation, it affects identity. Ships in the Persian Gulf use the Automatic Identification System, AIS, to broadcast their positions and identities to other vessels' port authorities, maritime insurers, and international tracking services. When GPS spoofing corrupts a ship's position, that corrupted data is also broadcast through AIS. Schooled Marine Insurance confirmed that since mid-2025, vessels have been falsely appearing in AIS records to have called at ports in sanctioned jurisdictions, Iranian ports specifically. A ship that is in international waters correctly operating legally appears on the records of banks, insurers, and compliance officers as having visited a sanctioned Iranian port. Because its spoofed GPS position was broadcast as its real position through AIS. This triggers false compliance alerts, delays in cargo release, payment disruptions, reputational risk for ship owners, all because a fake signal was accepted as genuine. The RIN January 2026 report found that on a modern maritime vessel, there can be over 20 systems across 7 categories that process GNSS data or timing. Fewer than half of those systems are directly involved in the navigation of the vessel. The others use GPS for timing synchronization communications systems, cargo management engine monitoring, and dozens of other operational functions. When GPS is compromised, it is not just navigation that fails. It is the entire integrated digital infrastructure of the ship. And as RICS documented in its March 2026 analysis, telecom networks on land in the Gulf region logged timing synchronization holdover events of up to 25 minutes during spoofing episodes. GPS spoofing reaches onshore infrastructure, national timing systems, communications networks, power grid synchronization. The vulnerability is not confined to ships at sea. Now let us understand the solution being proposed and why it is a technology that is approximately 80 years old. A photograph shows a Loren navigation tower alongside a caption showing the same technology is being modernized as a backup to GPS. The problem with GPS spoofing is fundamental and not easily fixed from within the GPS system itself. The civilian signal is unencrypted. To authenticate the signal properly would require either launching new satellites with different signal architectures or updating billions of receivers already installed across ships, aircraft, and infrastructure worldwide. Galileo Europe's satellite navigation system has already added a signal authentication feature called OSMA, but the vast majority of receivers currently in service are not equipped to use it. The practical backup being deployed by multiple nations is LORAN, Long-Range Navigation, a radio navigation system developed during World War II. It works by broadcasting signals from land-based transmitters rather than satellites. LORAN signals are more powerful than GPS signals and much harder to spoof because they come from known fixed locations on the ground rather than from satellites whose signals must travel 20,000 kilometers through space. The UK, France, Saudi Arabia, Russia, South Korea, and China are all currently deploying or modernizing LORAN infrastructure as a GPS backup. The navigation technology protecting the most critical maritime shipping corridors on Earth in 2026 is a system whose basic principles were developed in 1942. Not because LORAN is better than GPS, but because GPS, the most advanced navigation system in human history, cannot defend against a spoofing attack using its own unencrypted civilian signal. The Strait of Hormuz carries 20% of the world's oil through a 33-kilometer passage that is also one of the most electronically contested spaces on the planet. Tankers are navigating it by eye, checking radar against visual bearings, the same navigation techniques mariners used before satellite navigation existed. Because the satellites are there, the signals are there, And in March 2026, those signals are telling ships they are at airports. Subscribe to Where on Earth for weekly geography that reveals the invisible systems the modern world is built on and what happens when those systems come under attack. Hit the bell and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because the world looks very different when you understand that the navigation technology guiding 21 million barrels of oil per day through the world's most important strait is a system that anyone with the right transmitter can silently corrupt.